The alarm didn't wake me. The phantom scent of burning toast did. My eyes flew open a full minute before the 6 o'clock a.m. buzz. Richard's coffee. Dark roast. 2 sugars. No cream. Hill wanted the second he comes downstairs. The thought was a muscle memory. A groove worn so deep in my mind I couldn't escape it if I tried. I was already in the kitchen when I heard the shower shut off upstairs. The house on Wisteria Lane in Palo Alto was quiet. The kind of expensive quiet you pay for with a 30-year mortgage and a silent understanding. I poured the boiling water into the French press just as the footsteps sounded on the stairs. Precise. Impatient thuds. Richard appeared, already in his uniform. Charcoal suit. White shirt. No tie yet. His blonde hair, still perfect, showed no trace of the shower. He looked at the coffee pot, then at his watch. It's 6:07, he said, sliding onto a stool at the Marble Island. The press needs exactly 4 minutes. Claire, not 3, not 5. It's in the beans. The extraction is everything. It's 6:06, I said softly, placing his favorite mug in front of him. And it's been 4 minutes. I timed it. He didn't look at me. He poured, took a sip, and grimaced. Lukewarm. The mug was cold. It steals the heat. He pushed it aside. Just get me the travel tumbler. I've got the 8.30 with the VCs. Can't be late. A tiny fracture. Hairline thin. Open somewhere behind my ribs. I'll warm the mug next time, I said, my voice a careful, neutral thing. I filled his stainless steel tumbler. Will you be home for dinner? It's Liam's turn to pick. He's lobbying for tacos. Budget's tight. Claire, the market's volatile. My numbers need to be pristine for this funding round. Taco Tuesday isn't in the projections. He shrugged on his suit jacket, the one I'd had tailored for his birthday. Don't wait up. It'll be another late one. He was out the door without a goodbye. The garage door hummed open, then shut. The silence rushed back in, thicker now. Pristine numbers. I repeated the phrase in my head as I moved through the morning ballet. I woke the kids with gentle shakes and ridiculous animal noises. Ben, my serious 9-year-old, was already reading under the covers. The twins, Liam and Lily, a tangle of 7-year-old limbs and sleepy protests, emerged from their shared room. Mom, my sock has a headache, Liam announced, holding up a perfectly normal blue sock. Give it some orange juice and cartoons. Stat, I said, tossing him a fresh pair. Lily, ever pragmatic, was already dressed, brushing her long brown hair with fierce concentration. The breakfast chaos was a symphony I conducted by heart. Waffles for Ben, cut into squares, not triangles. Yogurt for Lily, and for Liam, a deconstructed peanut butter sandwich, where each component had to be physically separate on the plate. I packed 3 lunches, signed a field trip form, located a missing library book, and refereed a debate about whether a Tyrannosaurus Rex could beat a spaceship in a fight. Through it all, the phrase ticked like a metronome. Pristine numbers. Mom, Ben asked, shoving his last waffle square into his mouth. Does volatile mean Dad's gonna be grouchy? I stopped, the sponge hovering over a splash of syrup. Where'd you hear that word? Sweetheart, last night, I was getting water. Dad was on the phone in his office. He said, the home front is volatile. Need to contain the variables before the launch. Ben mimicked Richard's boardroom baritone perfectly. Is our home a variable? The fracture behind my ribs widened a millimeter. No, honey. Dad's just talking about work. His new project. I forced a smile. Now, shoes. Bus in 5. The house was quiet again after the bus swallowed my children. I stood in the sudden, aching stillness, contained the variables that I looked around at the pristine kitchen, the vacuum lines on the living room carpet, the perfectly stacked mail. I was the chief containment officer. For a decade, my job had been to absorb the chaos, to buffer, to smooth. to ensure nothing that no spilled juice, no missed dentist appointment, no emotional outburst that interfered with the pursuit of pristine numbers. I was wiping down the already clean counters when the doorbell rang. 10:15 a.m. Not a time for social calls. A delivery guy in a generic uniform stood there, holding a slim, legal-sized envelope. Claire Mitchell? Yes. Sign here. Please. I scrawled my name, my mind already drifting to the grocery list. Chicken, spinach, milk. The envelope was heavy, expensive paper. The return address was a law firm, Draco Stern, LLP. My stomach did a slow, cold roll. Richards, corporate lawyers. Tearing it open, I scanned the first line. Then I stopped breathing. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The word swam. I stumbled to the kitchen island, the paper slipping in my suddenly wet hands. I forced myself to read. Petitioner, Richard Mitchell, hereby petitions for dissolution of marriage. From respondent, Claire Mitchell, on grounds of irreconcilable differences. That was normal, almost boilerplate, but it kept going. Petitioner seeks sole legal and physical custody of the minor children, Benjamin, Liam, and Lily Mitchell, citing the respondent's emotional instability and pattern of neglect. A sound escaped me, a wounded animal gasp. Petitioner asserts the respondent is unfit to provide a stable, nurturing environment. The respondent suffers from untreated mood disorders and has demonstrated volatile, abusive behavior towards the petitioner and, on occasion, the children. The respondent is voluntarily unemployed and has made no effort to contribute financially or otherwise to the family's well-being, exhibiting a pattern of parasitic dependency. Wherefore, petitioner requests the court grant the following: sole legal and physical custody to petitioner, no spousal support awarded to respondent, division of marital assets favoring petitioner, who is the sole financial contributor, respondent to undergo a psychological evaluation at her own expense. The pages fell from my hands, fluttering to the floor like dead leaves. Parasitic dependency, unfit, abusive. The words weren't just legal terms. They were acid, eating through the fabric of my life, of myself. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone. I called Richard. It went straight to voicemail. I called again and again. On the fourth try, he picked up. Claire, I'm in a pre-meeting. This isn't the time. His voice was cool, clipped. Richard, I just got the papers. My own voice was a broken thing, barely a whisper. A pause, a sigh, the sound of a door shutting. Okay, you have them. Good, good. Richard, it says I'm unfit. It says I'm abusive. It says you want to take my children and leave me with nothing. Hysteria climbed my throat. What is this? Why, it's the truth. Claire, his tone was terrifyingly calm. You've been unstable for years. Your mood swings, the drinking in the afternoons, the way you scream at the kids. Do you think I haven't seen it? Do you think the neighbors haven't? I felt the world tilt. What drinking? I don't. I have a glass of wine with dinner sometimes. I have never, ever screamed at our children. How can you say that? See, he said, a note of pitying triumph in his voice. The denial, the lack of insight. It's all in the filings. Claire, witness statements, evidence. You need help. But my first priority is our children's safety and stability. Our children, Richard, I am their mother. I have raised them. I have been there for every fever, every nightmare, every school play. You haven't been home for dinner in 6 months because I've been building a future. He snapped, the calm cracking for a second. A future you're not a part of. You're a variable. Claire, an unstable one. You think packing lunches and helping with glitter glue is contributing? You're a cost center, a drain. You're a housewife. He spat the word like a curse. And I'm done subsidizing your hobby. The cruelty was so absolute, so calculated. It stole the air from my lungs. This wasn't an argument. This was a premeditated strike. You've been planning this. I breathed, the realization dawning with icy horror. The late nights, the locked phone, taking me off the credit card. You've been building a case. I've been documenting the reality. He corrected. And the reality is, you're not the woman I married. You're a liability. The court will see that. My lawyer is very, very good. Yours. He let the sentence hang. Just sign the papers. Claire, don't fight this. You'll lose. You'll lose big. And you'll embarrass yourself and hurt the kids in the process. Do the right thing for once. Walk away quietly. Then, the final, quiet blow. You should probably start looking for a place. I've filed for temporary exclusive use of the house. For the kids' sake. Of course. The hearing is next week. I'd suggest you be out by then. The line went dead. I sank to the cold kitchen floor. The legal papers scattered around me like shrapnel. The life I had built, that the meticulous, invisible, all-consuming work of love and logistics, that was a crime scene. And I was the perpetrator, a parasite, a volatile, abusive drain. The silence of the house was no longer peaceful. It was accusatory. Every clean surface, every organized drawer, was a monument to my uselessness. A hobby, a memory flashed, unbidden. A year ago, at a company barbecue, Richard's new assistant, Sophia, young and sharp in a designer dress, laughing at his joke. "Oh, Richard, you're so lucky. A wife who Levesto stay home. It's so retro. I could never. I'd go mad without a real purpose." Richard had chuckled, his hand on her back. "It's a sacrifice, but someone has to hold down the fort." I'd been holding the fort, and he'd been outside, planning its demolition. I don't know how long I sat there. The sun moved across the floor. My phone buzzed, a reminder to pick up Lily's prescription. The mundane normalcy of it was a sick joke. I forced myself to stand. My legs were lead. I needed a lawyer. I needed money. I walked, numb, to Richard's home office. The room was obsessively neat, a monument to control. The filing cabinet was locked. His desktop computer was password protected. Of course, I yanked open the desk drawer. Pens, paper clips, a stapler, and then, in the bottom drawer, tucked under a manual, a single sheet of paper, a bank statement from a joint account I rarely checked, the one for household expenses. I remembered a balance of around $20,000. A cushion. The statement was from last week. The balance was $187.42. A series of withdrawals. Large ones. Over the past 3 months. Transfers to an account I didn't recognize. The last one, for $15,000, was dated 2 days ago. The memo line read, "Retainer, Hislewire's retainer, paid for with our money. The money for groceries, for braces, for the mortgage." He wasn't just leaving. He was burning the village and salting the earth on his way out. The door slammed downstairs, followed by the thunder of small feet. "Mom, we're home." School was over. The world had ended, and I had to make snacks. I shoved the statement in my pocket, pasted a smile on my face, and went to meet my children. Their backpacks hit the floor, a cacophony of normal life. Ben looked at me, his bright, too perceptive eyes missing nothing. "Hey, buddy," I said, my voice straining under the weight of false cheer. "How was school?" "Fine," he said slowly, not moving from the doorway. Liam and Lily barreled past, arguing over a Pokemon card. "Mom," Ben asked, his voice quiet, "is Dad leaving us?" The question was so direct, so unflinching. It shattered the fragile facade. I knelt, pulling him to me, burying my face in his hair so he wouldn't see the terror in my eyes. "What? No, honey. Of course not. Why would you say that?" He pulled back, studying my face. "He's been different, and you're sad. I hear you at night, when you think we're asleep." I had no answer. The lie I'd prepared, Dad's just busy, turned to ash in my mouth. My 9-year-old son had seen the fault line running through our lives before I had. He was the canary in the coal mine, and I had been too busy polishing the cage to notice it was gasping for air. "We're going to be okay, Ben," I whispered, the promise feeling hollow even as I made it. "I promise." He just looked at me, his young face old with a knowledge he shouldn't have. He didn't believe me, and in that moment, I realized with a fresh, drowning wave of fear, I didn't believe me either. That night, after the twins were finally asleep, I crept to Ben's room. A sliver of light glowed under his door. I pushed it open gently. He was in bed, but not asleep. He was holding my old smartphone, the one I'd let him use for games months ago. The screen lit his face in a pale blue glow. "Ben, it's late, sweetheart." He quickly tucked the phone under his pillow. "Just reading," he mumbled. On the phone, an e-book. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Good night, Mom. Good night, my love." I kissed his forehead, the worry a constant, low hum in my veins. Was he looking up divorce? Custody? What did a 9-year-old search for when his world was cracking apart? As I closed his door, I heard the faint, distinct sound of a video recording being stopped. A soft click. I stood in the dark hallway, the silence of the house, now a living thing, watchful and full of secrets. My husband had declared war. My finances were a hollow shell. My name was being dragged through legal mud. And my son, my sweet, serious boy, was lying to me. The fault line had opened, and I was only just beginning to feel the ground fall away beneath my feet. The world, after the papers, was a different planet, one with thinner air, colder sunlight, and a gravity that felt malicious, designed to crush me. I moved through the next 72 hours in a state of high-functioning shock. I made breakfasts. I signed permission slips. I attended Lily's ballet recital, clapping on autopilot while my mind raced in frantic, useless circles. Lawyer, money, shelter, proof. The children were a paradox. The twins, blessedly, seemed wrapped in a bubble of childish oblivion. Their biggest concern, still the ownership of a shiny Charizard card. But Ben watched me. His eyes, the same cool blue as Richard's, but infinitely kinder, followed me from room to room. He'd taken to carrying my old smartphone everywhere, a silent, rectangular security blanket. I didn't have the energy to question it. On the third day, I sat at the kitchen island with my laptop, a cold cup of coffee beside me. My search history was a pathetic chronicle of despair. How to fight false abuse allegations. Legal aid, family law, California. Cost of divorce, lawyer, Palo Alto. The numbers made me dizzy. Retainers started at $25,000. $25,000. I had $187, and a joint credit card Richard had canceled without telling me. I scrolled through my contacts. A list of names that felt like artifacts from a past life. College friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Former classmates from Stanford. Most of them VPs or founders now. What would I say? "Hi, remember me? I need a loan because my husband is trying to destroy me." One name stood out. Maya Rodriguez. We'd been in the same sociology of the family seminar. She'd been fierce, brilliant, arguing about systemic power imbalances while I took careful notes. I'd heard she'd gone to law school. I found her now. Maya Rodriguez. Partner. Family law advocacy. San Jose. My finger hovered over the call button. Shame, hot and thick, clogged my throat. She dealt with real victims. And what was I? A housewife who'd missed the coup happening in her own home. I took a sharp breath and pressed call. Maya Rodriguez. Her voice was exactly as I remembered. Clear, no nonsense, slicing through the static. Maya, hi, it's Claire Mitchell. Claire Evans, from Stanford, SOC 152, with Professor Claiborne. The words tumbled out. Too eager. Too pathetic. A pause. Claire. Wow. It's been a decade? More. Her tone shifted. Professional curiosity seeping in. This isn't a social call, is it? No. My voice cracked. I'm in trouble. My husband, he's filed for divorce. He's saying terrible things. He wants to take my kids. He's frozen everything. The story spilled out in a chaotic, shuddering rush. The petition, the allegations, the emptied account. Maya listened without interruption. When I finished, there was a long silence. Claire, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Do not sign anything. Do not move out of that house unless a sheriff puts you out. Do not talk to Richard without me present. Do you understand? Yes. The firmness of her instructions was a lifeline. I have a gap at 2 o'clock. Come to my office. We'll talk. Don't worry about the retainer right now. Maya, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. See you at 2. Her office was all sleek lines and expensive art, a world away from my crumb-filled minivan. Maya herself was sharper, more polished, but the same fierce intelligence burned in her eyes. She had the petition and the accompanying declarations spread out on a vast glass desk. Okay, she said, leaning back. Let's break down what we're fighting. He's alleging 3 primary things. Emotional instability leading to abusive behavior, neglect of the children, and financial parasitism. He's using this to argue for sole custody and zero support. It's a scorched earth strategy, but it's all lies. I choked out. I believe you, she said evenly, but the court doesn't know you. It sees what's presented. And what's presented here, she tapped the papers, is a compelling, coordinated narrative. Look, she slid a sheet toward me. It was a declaration from our neighbor, Evelyn White. I have on numerous occasions observed Claire Mitchell in an intoxicated state in the afternoon, slurring her words, and once dropping a full bottle of wine on her driveway. The children were present. I have also heard her screaming at the children from inside the home on multiple evenings. My blood ran cold. Evelyn White? She brought us banana bread when we moved in. We've had her over for Thanksgiving. People are cheap. Claire, especially when bought. Maya pointed to a highlighted section. He's also submitted credit card statements showing repeated charges at the Oak Barrel, a bar downtown that over the last 9 months. Hundreds of dollars. That's impossible. I haven't been to a bar in years. That card, it was in my wallet, but I barely used it. For groceries, sometimes. Was it ever out of your possession? I thought, the memory clicking into place with a sickening jolt. Months ago, I couldn't find it. Richard said it probably fell out of my purse at the grocery store. He canceled it and ordered a new one. The new one came, but he said to just keep it for emergencies, that he'd handle the household stuff. Maya's expression was grim, so the old card never got canceled. He had it, or someone did. The charges are all from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. on weekdays. Prime neglectful. Drunken mom hours. He's creating a paper trail. She moved to another document. A letter from the twins' pediatrician. Dr. Albright noted a concerning pattern of minor injuries in patient Lily Mitchell over the past year, including an unexplained bruise on the upper arm. When asked, the mother, Claire Mitchell, was evasive. Lily is 7. She's a tornado. That bruise was from falling off the monkey bars at school. I told the nurse. The doctor's note doesn't mention the school's incident report. Maya said quietly, I'll subpoena it, but you see the pattern. He's got a neighbor, financial records, and a medical professional, all pointing to instability and neglect. It's a classic mother is unfit playbook. He's also alleging you're obsessed with him, that you've been harassing him and his colleagues, showing up at his office. The final piece, the photo of him and Sophia. I told Maya about the anonymous envelope. Do you have it? I shook my head. I threw it away. I was so upset. The date was blurry, a common trick, without a clear date or provenance. It's just a photo of two people. He'll say it was from a company holiday party, that you're pathologically jealous. She steepled her fingers. He's good. This is premeditated. He's been laying this groundwork for at least a year. The room swayed. What do I do? We fight. We get your own declarations. We subpoena everything. His financials, his phone records, his work emails. We find Sophia. But Claire, she met my eyes. He's asking for temporary orders. He wants you out of the house, with only supervised visitation. Next week, he's arguing the home environment is toxic and dangerous for the kids with you in it. The hearing is on Friday. He can't do that. It's their home. He can ask. And with this, she gestured to the damning pile of paper. A judge might grant it, at least initially, to preserve the status quo for the children. We need to be ready for that possibility. The drive home was a blur. The familiar streets of Palo Alto looked sinister. Every manicured lawn, a potential front for another Evelyn White. I walked into my house to MY Home. And felt like a stranger, a defendant in a crime scene. The doorbell rang. It was Sarah, my neighbor from 2 doors down, a single mom with 2 boys. She worked as a paralegal. I'd watched her kids countless times when she had late hearings. In her hands was a large Pyrex dish. "Hey," she said, her smile not quite reaching her tired eyes. "Made a lasagna. Figured you could use a night off." She stepped in, her gaze sweeping over me. "You look like hell." Claire, the kindness undid me. Tears I'd been holding back for days spilled over. "Sarah, he's taking everything. The kids. He's saying I'm a terrible mother." Sarah's face hardened. She set the dish down with a thud. "Let me guess. Evelyn White is a star witness?" I stared at her, shocked. "I saw the process server," she said quietly, "and I've seen Richard's BMW in Evelyn's driveway late at night. More than once." She put a hand on my arm. "Listen to me. You're a good mom. The best. This town is full of snakes in Lily Pulitzer. You fight. You fight like hell." She hesitated. "And watch your kids. Claire, they see more than you think, and they're smarter than any of us." After she left, I replayed her words. Watch your kids. That evening, chaos reigned as usual. Lily was crying over a math worksheet. Liam was building a fort in the living room that involved every cushion we owned. And Ben was silent, tapping away on that old phone. "Ben, honey, no phones at the dinner table. You know the rules." He looked up, guilty for a split second, then slid it into his lap. "Sorry, Mom. Just checking something for homework." "Since when do you get homework on Google Docs?" Liam asked, stuffing green beans in his mouth. "Shut up, Liam. You shut up. Both of you. Enough," I said, the weariness seeping into my voice. "Ben, just put it away. Please." He did, but his eyes kept darting toward the hallway, where Richard's empty study lay. Later, after baths and stories, I passed by the twins' room. The door was ajar. I heard whispering. "Did you get it?" Ben's voice, low and serious. "Yeah," Liam whispered back. "It was in the trash in the garage. It smells like old pizza. Doesn't matter. Give it here." "What is it?" Lily's tiny voice. "A secret mission for Mom," Ben said. "Like spies. But you can't tell. Lily, not anyone. Especially not Dad." "Is Dad the bad guy?" Lily asked, her voice small. A long pause. "Yeah, Lils," Ben said, his voice suddenly much older. "I think he is." I backed away from the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. A secret mission. What were they doing? Searching for the missing credit card? Playing some misguided detective game? A wave of protectiveness, fierce and terrified, washed over me. I couldn't let them get tangled in this. This was adult poison. I found Ben in his room, the phone charging on his nightstand. "Ben," I said, sitting on the edge of his bed, "we need to talk." He looked at me, his face guarded. "I know things are scary and confusing right now, with Dad and me, but I need you to be a kid. Okay? I need you and Liam and Lily to just be kids. Mom and the lawyers will handle the grown-up stuff. You don't need to do missions. His jaw set in a way that was so, like, Richard, it hurt. Someone has to help you, he said stubbornly. You help me by being my amazing, wonderful boy, by doing your homework and being kind to your brother and sister. That's the help I need, not spying. Okay, promise me you'll leave the grown-up problems to the grown-ups. He looked down at his comforter, picking at a thread. Okay, Mom, he mumbled. I promise. I kissed his forehead, my heart aching. He was lying. I knew it, and I was too exhausted, too overwhelmed, to know how to stop it. Friday arrived, the day of the temporary orders hearing. I dressed in a navy blue dress that felt like a costume. Sober, competent, and not at all volatile. Maya had instructed, no jewelry, minimal makeup. Your mom, not a socialite. The courthouse was a monument to anxiety. Richard was already there, flanked by a man in a suit that probably cost more than my car. His lawyer, Stephen Dracos, had the tan, polished calm of a shark in warm water. Richard didn't look at me. The hearing was in a small, wood-paneled courtroom. Judge Helen Fitzgerald, a woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, presided. Dracos went first. He was smooth, persuasive, painting a picture of a dedicated father, presenting photos of Richard at a company picnic with the kids, and a troubled, unstable wife. He cited Evelyn White's declaration, the credit card statements, the pediatrician's concerns. He spoke of Richard's fear for the children's safety, his desire to provide a stable, nurturing home. Your Honor, Dracos concluded, my client is simply asking to preserve the stable home environment for the children during this difficult time. Ms. Mitchell is, understandably, emotionally fragile. She needs time and space to focus on her own issues without the day-to-day pressures of parenting. We're asking for temporary exclusive use of the family home and for a step-up visitation plan for Ms. Mitchell, beginning with supervised, therapeutic visits. Supervised visits, like I was a bomb that might go off. I dug my nails into my palms. Maya stood. She was fire to Dracos's ice. She attacked the credibility of the evidence, the neighbor with a grudge, hinting at a possible quid pro quo. The suspicious credit card charges that didn't match my location. She presented my grocery store receipts from the same afternoons. The pediatrician's incomplete report. This is a transparent attempt by a high-earning spouse to weaponize the court system, impoverish his wife, and sever the maternal bond before the real facts can come to light, Maya argued, her voice ringing in the small room. To uproot these children from their primary caregiver, their school, their home, based on manufactured evidence, would be a profound trauma. The judge listened, her face impassive. She called Richard to the stand, under oath. He was a masterpiece of pained concern. I love my wife, Your Honor, he said, his voice thick with fake emotion. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. But the drinking, the mood swings. I came home once, and she'd locked the twins in their room as a timeout for hours. Little Lily was sobbing. Ben is anxious all the time, trying to be the man of the house. I have to protect them. I made a small, choked sound. It was a lie, a vivid, horrific lie. I'd never done that, ever. And the financial allegations? Dracos prompted. Richard sighed. The put-upon provider. I've supported Claire, completely, for 10 years. I wanted her to pursue her passions, but her passion became bitterness. She's made no effort. I'm not asking to leave her destitute, but the children's needs must come first. Their private schools, their activities. I can provide that stability. She can't. Then it was my turn. Maya asked me gentle, leading questions, and I tried to tell the truth about our life. The playdates, the homework, the bedtime stories, the invisible labor of a family. I talked about the credit card, the missing card, the photo of Richard and Sophia, But under Dracos's cross-examination, I faltered. Ms. Mitchell, you claim you never made these bar charges. Can you prove where you were on the afternoon of March 14th at 2 p.m.? I racked my brain. I was probably at the grocery store or doing laundry. I don't know. I don't keep a log. So you have no alibi. My alibi is that I was taking care of my children. The children who, according to their father and their pediatrician, you sometimes neglect and lock in their rooms? That is not true. The words burst out of me. Too loud, too raw. Dracos didn't smile. He just looked at the judge, as if my outburst proved his point. In the end, Judge Fitzgerald ruled. Her voice was calm, final. The allegations here are serious and contested. However, the petitioner has presented prima facie evidence of concerning behavior that, if true, could impact the children's well-being. At this preliminary stage, my primary concern is minimizing disruption for the children. She looked at me, and her gaze wasn't unkind, but it was distant. Ms. Mitchell, I am not making a finding of fact on these allegations today. That is for the trial, but I must err on the side of caution. I am granting Mr. Mitchell temporary exclusive use of the marital residence. You will vacate the premises with your personal effects by 5 p.m. next Tuesday. I am granting you temporary visitation every other weekend and Wednesday dinners to be conducted in a public, neutral location initially. I am also ordering a custody evaluation for both parents and a psychological evaluation for you. Ms. Mitchell, given the allegations raised, the world tunneled. The wood of the bench felt like ice under my hands. Vacate, neutral location, psychological evaluation. Your Honor, Maya said quickly, what about support? Ms. Mitchell has no independent income. How is she to secure housing? The judge nodded. Mr. Mitchell is ordered to pay temporary spousal support of $2.500 per month and temporary child support according to the guideline. He is also to maintain health insurance for the respondent and the children. Funds are to be made available for Ms. Mitchell to secure an apartment. $2,500. In Palo Alto, it was a cruel joke. Richard's lawyer didn't even blink. It was what they'd expected. As we walked out of the courtroom, Richard finally looked at me. There was no triumph in his eyes, just a cold, clean satisfaction. He leaned close, his voice a whisper meant only for me. See, Claire, I told you not to fight. Look what you've done. You've made a scene, and you've lost your kids. Just sign the papers, and maybe we can make this less ugly for everyone. He walked away, his lawyer clapping him on the back. I stood in the echoing hallway, the weight of the judgment pressing me into the cold marble floor. I had lost my home. I had lost my children half the time. I was officially, in the eyes of the court, a person who needed to be psychologically evaluated before being trusted with her own babies. Maya was talking, her hand on my arm. An appeal temporary will fight this at trial, but her words were distant, muffled, like I was underwater. I had followed the rules. I had built the home, nurtured the children, supported the husband, and the system, the pristine, logical system, had just handed him the keys to my life and labeled me the intruder. As we walked out into the blinding afternoon sun, my phone buzzed, an email alert, the subject line, Stanford Alumni Network, job posting, entry-level data analyst. I stared at it, a hysterical laugh bubbling in my throat. They wanted a recent graduate, proficient in Python, with 3 to 5 years of professional experience. My 10 years of proficiency in conflict resolution, logistics, triage nursing, and culinary arts. Why PhD in sustaining human life meant nothing. I was a line on a divorce petition, a cost center, a variable to be contained. I had 1 week to find a home. I had a court order declaring me a potential danger to my children. I had $187.42, and I had 3 little spies who thought they could save me. The war wasn't invisible anymore. It was here, and I was on the wrong side of the line, unarmed and bleeding. But as I got into my car, a new feeling cut through the despair, a sharp sliver of cold steel. It was rage, and it was the first real, useful thing I'd felt in weeks. The courtroom felt like a sealed tomb, airless, cold, smelling of lemon polish and despair. 1 week after the temporary orders hearing, and here we were again, the trial on the merits. My life, my fitness as a mother, dissected before a judge, a stenographer, and the man who had vowed to love me, Richard's lawyer, Dracos, was painting his masterpiece, witness by witness, lie by lie. He was constructing a version of Claire Mitchell that was a stranger to me, a fragile, volatile ghost who haunted a perfectly good home. Evelyn White, my former neighbor, sat primly, avoiding my eyes. "Oh, yes," she said, her voice a syrupy whisper. Poor Claire. It was so often, in the afternoons. She'd be out getting the mail, swaying a little. The children would be inside, unsupervised. Once, I saw her drop a whole bottle of Pinot Noir right on the driveway. Glass everywhere. The twins were barefoot. I had to call out to her to keep the children back. Maya's cross-examination was a scalpel. "Ms. White, you testified you and Mr. Mitchell aren't close. Yet you've had him over for coffee several times in the last 6 months, correct? Well, as neighbors, and he helped you with a rather complex property tax appeal, didn't he? One that saved you nearly $15,000. Evelyn flushed. He's a good neighbor, a financially helpful neighbor. Maya corrected. The point was made, but the stain of the testimony remained. Next was a records custodian from the credit card company, confirming the charges at the Oak Barrel. Then, Richard's star witness, Dr. Albright, the pediatrician. He was an older man, with a kind face that now seemed like a mask. In my professional opinion, he intoned. The pattern was concerning. Multiple minor injuries, inconsistent explanations. The mother was often defensive, dismissive. As a mandatory reporter, my duty is to the child's safety, not the parent's feelings. Maya stood. "Doctor, you mentioned a bruise on Lily Mitchell's upper arm last September. Did you review the school's incident report from that same day, which states she fell from the monkey bars during recess?" He adjusted his glasses. The mother provided that after me note. It's easy to get a note from a school. So you're suggesting Claire Mitchell fabricated a school incident report? I'm suggesting it's a possibility when a parent is being evasive. I dug my nails into my palms. I wasn't evasive. I was terrified. You looked at me like I'd hurt my child. Richard took the stand. He was calm, sorrowful, credible. Dracos led him through the narrative of his concerned husband's decline. It was the drinking first. Richard said, his voice heavy. At first, it was just wine with dinner. Then it was earlier. I'd come home and find her glassy-eyed. The house a mess. The kids fending for themselves. And the emotional state volatile. Richard said, looking directly at the judge. 1 minute, she'd be crying. The next, she'd be screaming. The kids would hide in their rooms. Ben, my oldest, he started acting like a little parent, trying to calm her down. It broke my heart. Lies. Every word. But he said them with such gentle conviction. And the harassment? The inappropriate contact with your workplace? Richard sighed. She'd call my assistant, Sophia, dozens of times a day, accuse her of things, show up at the office, demanding to see me. My colleagues were concerned. It was impacting my work, my ability to provide. Maya's cross-examination was fierce, but Richard was a stone wall. I don't recall. That's not how it happened. You're misunderstanding that he had an answer for everything, wrapped in that veneer of pained patience. Then, it was my turn. I told the truth, the mundane, beautiful, exhausting truth of our life. The packed lunches, the science projects, the nightmares, the laughter. I talked about the photo, the missing credit card, the drained account. Dracos sauntered up for cross. Ms. Mitchell, you claim you're a devoted mother, yet you have no proof of how you spent your days, correct? No timesheets, no diaries. My proof is my children, I said, my voice trembling. Children who, your own husband and their doctor say, were often neglected. Let's talk about the bar charges. You deny them. Can you name one friend, one acquaintance, who can verify your whereabouts on, say, March 14th at 2 p.m.? I froze. My life was my children, my home. My friends were other moms I saw at drop-off. We didn't keep logs. I was home, or at the park. I don't know. You don't know. You claim my client is having an affair. Where is the evidence? You have no photos, no texts, no witnesses. He was careful, I whispered. Or perhaps, Draco said, turning to the judge, it simply didn't happen. Perhaps it's a fantasy born of resentment and, as the evidence suggests, instability. He sat down. The silence in the room was a verdict in itself. Judge Fitzgerald, a woman who had seen it all, looked weary. Counsel, your closing statements. Dracos was succinct. The evidence is overwhelming. Your Honor, a pattern of behavior that puts the children's emotional and physical well-being at risk. Mr. Mitchell is a stable, high-earning parent who can provide security. We ask the court to formalize the temporary orders into a permanent arrangement. For the children's sake. Maya stood, her knuckles white on the table. Your Honor, this is a travesty, a calculated, malicious campaign to exploit the court's protective instincts. Every piece of evidence is circumstantial, provided by a biased party or bought and paid for. To sever this bond would be a lifelong trauma for these children. Claire Mitchell is their rock. We ask that primary custody be awarded to her, with standard visitation for Mr. Mitchell, and an equitable division of assets. The judge's gaze moved from Maya to Dracos, then to Richard, then to me. It lingered on me, and I saw it did not disbelief, but a deep, institutional caution. My word against his, a mother with no witnesses, no alibis, no job, against a father with receipts and professional testimony. Given the serious nature of the allegations concerning the mother's stability, Judge Fitzgerald began, her voice solemn. The court's primary concern must be. Excuse me? The voice was small, clear, and cut through the heavy legalese like a bell. Everyone turned. Ben, he was sitting in the front row of the gallery, between Sarah and the twins' teacher, Ms. Miller, who had come for moral support. His face was pale, but his back was straight. He was looking right at the judge. Young man, the judge said, not unkindly, this is not the time. You'll have to wait outside. But you're talking about my mom, Ben said, his voice gaining strength. And you're wrong. Richard half rose from his chair. Ben, honey, not now. The judge is talking. Ben ignored him. He kept his eyes on Judge Fitzgerald. My dad is lying. All of it. I have proof. A secret. My mom doesn't even know. Can I show you? A stunned ripple went through the room. Draco scoffed. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. The child is 9. He's clearly been influenced by the respondent. I have not been influenced, Ben said, with a startling maturity. He looked at me, his eyes wide with apology and determination. I'm sorry, Mom. I had to. Judge Fitzgerald studied him for a long moment. What is your name, son? Benjamin Mitchell. I'm 9, and these are my brother and sister. He gestured to Liam and Lily, who were clinging to Sarah's hands, eyes like saucers. And what is this proof? Benjamin? Ben reached into his backpack, the one with the spaceship patch dot, and pulled out my old smartphone. It was covered in a grubby superhero sticker case. He also pulled out a small, pink, child's MP3 player with a microphone, clearly Lily's. and what looked like a cheap toy store spy camera pen. My breath caught. The secret missions, the hushed conversations, the old phone he was always playing with. Your Honor, Dracos interjected. This is absurd. Toy store paraphernalia? Let's see. The judge said, her curiosity clearly piqued. She nodded to the bailiff, who walked over and took the devices from Ben. The phone has videos and audio files, Ben said, his voice clear in the silent room. The dates are on them. The pen has a video. The MP3 player has conversations. The bailiff handed the devices to the judge. She put on her reading glasses, plugged the phone into the court's AV system with the help of a clerk. The large screen on the wall, which had been blank, flickered to life. Start with the file labeled Dad and the lady in the car. Ben said, as if he'd rehearsed it. Maybe he had. The clerk clicked. The video was shaky, shot from a low angle, through the dusty windshield of my minivan, parked a few cars down at a shopping plaza. The timestamp in the corner read, October 12th, 4:32 p.m. There was Richard's BMW, and there was Richard, leaning against the driver's side door, and there was Sophia, his assistant. She was laughing, tossing her hair. Richard reached out, tucked a strand behind her ear, then pulled her in for a long, intimate kiss. Not a greeting, a lover's kiss. That was after he said he was at a sales conference in San Jose. Ben's small voice narrated from the gallery. He told Mom it would run late. I had Liam pretend he left his favorite action figure in the car, so Mom would go back. I hid and recorded it. Richard's face was ashen. That's out of context. It was a goodbye kiss. She was upset. Play the audio file labeled Garage, Ben said, ignoring him. The screen went dark, but audio filled the room. The rustle of wind, the faint sound of a basketball bouncing nearby. Then, Richard's voice, low and clear. That just say you've seen her drinking during the day. Afternoons. It's not a lie. Evelyn, you've seen her with a wine glass when she's gardening. Another voice, Evelyn White's. Unmistakable. I don't know. Richard, it feels wrong. She's always been nice to me. 5,000 now. 5,000 after the hearing. Think of your property taxes. Evelyn, this is just supporting a friend. A long pause. Then Evelyn, just the drinking. Nothing else. That's all I need. The gasp in the room was audible. Evelyn White looked like she might be sick. Now the file labeled Office on the MP3 player. Ben instructed. This audio was scratchier. A child's toy recording. It was filled with the rustling of what sounded like someone hiding in a small space. Then, Richard's voice, slightly muffled but clear. On a phone call. Got the credit card statements? Good. The bar charges are perfect. The judge will eat it up. No, she's not tech savvy. She won't trace the IP. Just make sure the times are when the kids are home from school. Yes, the pediatrician is taken care of. A donation to his clinic's new wing. He understands the concerns of a busy father. Liam's voice, a tiny whisper, came on the tape. Got it, Ben. Then the sound of little feet scampering away. Richard was on his feet. This is illegal. They're minors. They recorded me without my consent. It's inadmissible. Sit down. Mr. Mitchell. Judge Fitzgerald's voice was like a whip crack. She turned to Ben. How did you get this? Ben stood up. He looked small, but his voice didn't waver. Liam hid in the closet in your home office. Dad, you were on the phone with your lawyer. You always let us play in there. You never looked. He took a shaky breath. And the other one, the one with the neighbor lady, Lily and I were playing hide and seek in the garage. We hid behind the old canoe. You came in to get your golf clubs. You didn't see us. He looked at the judge, his eyes swimming with tears he refused to shed. My dad taught me to always back up my stories with proof. He said, that's how you win. So when he started being mean about Mom and saying things that weren't true, I started collecting proof to protect her. Because she always protects us. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop. Every eye was on the small boy, then on Richard, whose facade had crumbled into sheer, naked panic. Dracos was sputtering. Your Honor, the manner in which this evidence was obtained. The manner, Judge Fitzgerald interrupted, her voice cold with fury, suggests a 9-year-old boy had more respect for the truth than his father or his father's attorney. She looked at the screen, then at the pile of declarations on her desk. The court has heard enough for today. We are in recess. Mr. Mitchell, you and your counsel will remain. Ms. Rodriguez, you and your client as well. The children may wait outside with, she looked at Sarah. Sarah Wilkins. Your Honor, a friend. Ms. Wilkins, please take the children to the cafeteria. Get them some ice cream. Her stern gaze softened a fraction as she looked at Ben. You are a very brave young man, Benjamin, and you have the court's gratitude. As the room erupted in chatter, I couldn't move. I was frozen, staring at my son, my baby, who had seen the monster before I did, who had become a spy, a detective, a warrior, to save me. The weight of it, the terrible, awesome weight of what he'd done, what he'd seen and heard, crushed me and lifted me all at once. Maya's hand was on my shoulder, squeezing hard. Don't you move, she whispered, her voice fierce with triumph. Don't you say a word. Let him hang himself. Richard was leaning over to Dracos, hissing something, his face a mask of rage and terror. Dracos just shook his head, looking at the devices on the clerk's desk as if they were venomous snakes. The judge slammed her gavel. Recess. Clear the courtroom. As the spectators filed out, buzzing with the scandal, I finally found the strength to move. I walked to the gallery railing. Ben was there, the twins clinging to his sides. I reached through and pulled them all into a fierce, desperate hug, the railing digging into my ribs. I'm sorry, Mom. Ben whispered into my neck. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I was scared you'd make me stop. No, I choked out, tears streaming down my face. No, my brave, brilliant boy. You saved me. You saved all of us. I looked over their heads at Richard. He was staring at us, his eyes hollow. The man who had planned everything, contained every variable, had never accounted for the quiet courage of his own children, the witnesses he had bought, the lies he had crafted, the narrative he had so carefully built. IT lay shattered at his feet, broken by a 9-year-old with a second-hand phone and a heart full of love. The invisible war was over, and the smallest soldiers had won the first, crucial battle. But as I held my children, feeling the tremors running through Ben's small frame, I knew the cost, and I knew, looking at Richard's cold, defeated eyes, that the war for our future was just beginning. The gavel's crack wasn't an ending, it was a detonation. The shock wave ripped through the courtroom, leaving a silence so profound I could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. Richard's face, a mask of calculated concern moments before, had collapsed into something raw and unrecognizable, that a mixture of sheer panic and dawning. Horrific comprehension. He wasn't looking at the judge, or at his sputtering lawyer. He was staring at Ben, his own son, and in his eyes, for a fleeting second, I saw not anger, but a kind of terrified awe, as if he'd just watched a pet dog calmly pick a lock. This court is in recess, Judge Fitzgerald repeated, her voice slicing through the static in my head. Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Mitchell, counsel. M.Y. Chambers. Now, the gallery erupted. Evelyn White scurried out, head down, without a backward glance. Sarah shepherded my children away, shooting me a look of fierce triumph. Ben paused at the door, his small face pale, but set. He gave me a single, sharp nod. It's going to be okay, Dad. I tried to smile, but my face felt like plaster. Maya gripped my elbow, her fingers tight. Don't speak. Don't react. Let me handle this. she whispered, her own voice vibrating with suppressed fury and vindication. He's finished. In the judge's chambers. The air was thick. Judge Fitzgerald did not sit. She stood behind her desk, a pillar of black robes and cold fury. Mr. Dracos, she began, her voice dangerously calm. Your client has perpetrated a fraud upon this court. He has suborned perjury. He has conspired to manufacture evidence. He has systematically attempted to alienate 3 children from their mother for financial gain. I have seen many things in my courtroom. This is among the most reprehensible. Dracos, for once, had no slick reply. Your Honor, the manner in which this evidence was obtained, that saved this court from a catastrophic miscarriage of justice. She finished for him. I will be referring this matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges of perjury, falsifying evidence, and filing a fraudulent petition. As for you, Counselor, I will be reviewing your conduct in this matter with the State Bar. You had an ethical duty to inquire into the veracity of your client's claims. The fact that a 9-year-old boy did your job for you is a profound embarrassment to this profession. Dracos went pale. Richard finally found his voice. Your Honor, those recordings, they're taken out of context. The child is confused. He's been manipulated by his mother. Be quiet, Mr. Mitchell, the judge said, not even looking at him. She turned to Maya and me. Ms. Mitchell, the temporary orders are vacated, effective immediately. You are to return to the marital home. Mr. Mitchell will vacate by 5 p.m. today. He is to take only personal effects. All joint accounts are frozen pending forensic accounting. He will pay interim spousal and child support at the maximum guideline, retroactive to the filing date. A hearing for permanent orders will be set, but given the evidence of his fraud, I see no scenario where he is awarded anything but supervised visitation. If that, she leaned forward, her gaze landing on me. It was no longer distant, but sharp, assessing. Your son is extraordinarily brave, and, I suspect, profoundly traumatized. Get him help. Get them all help. This isn't a victory party. It's triage. Then she looked at Richard. Get out of my sight. The legal machinery ground into motion with stunning speed. Within hours, there were new court orders. Richard was barred from the house. A forensic accountant was appointed. The police were called to oversee his removal of personal items. I stood in the foyer of the home I'd been exiled from a week prior, watching 2 uniformed officers supervise as Richard, silent and seething, packed suits into a Louis Vuitton suitcase. He paused on his way out, the officers a discreet distance away. He looked at me, the hatred in his eyes so pure it was almost impressive. You think you've won, he hissed, his voice low. You turn my own children against me. You're pathetic, and you're still nothing. A housewife with a legally sanctioned handout. You'll drown in it. I didn't flinch. The fear was gone, burned away by the white-hot truth my son had unleashed. Get out, Richard. He left. The door shut. The silence of the house was different now. It was mine. It was broken, but it was mine. The crash came the next day. The adrenaline drained, leaving a bone-deep exhaustion and a chilling emptiness. The house was a museum of a life that was a lie. I won, but I was unemployed, married to a man who wanted to destroy me, and the primary parent to 3 children who had just weaponized their childhood to save me. The first call was from the bank. Mrs. Mitchell, regarding the mortgage on Wisteria Lane. We show a missed payment. Richard had stopped paying. Of course he had. The court order meant nothing if he had no income. I called Maya in a panic. He's resigned from his company, she said, her voice grim. Effective immediately. No severance. He's vanished his income. The support order is worthless if we can't find him or his assets. The forensic accountant is working on it, but it's like chasing a ghost. He's been planning this exit for a long time. The mortgage, the bills. I know. I'm so sorry. Claire, The system is slow. He's exploiting every gap. I spent days on the phone. The electricity, the water, the kids' private school tuition, all delinquent. The money from the joint account was gone. My credit, tied to his, was freezing up. The victory was a hollow shell. I had to sell the house. The realization was a physical blow. Maya found a buyer, a cash offer from a tech executive who wanted a quick close. It was less than market value, but it would clear the mortgage and leave me with a small cushion. $187,000. It sounded like a fortune. In Palo Alto, with 3 kids and no job, it was a life raft with a slow leak. We moved into a cramped 3-bedroom apartment in a complex off the Bayshore Freeway. The walls were thin. The kids' school was a 30-minute bus ride away. The twins cried the first night. Ben just sat on his unpacked box, looking at the stained carpet. It's temporary, I promised. My voice too bright. An adventure. The community's reaction was a split screen. Sarah became my rock. She showed up with a casserole, a bottle of wine, and a printout of state assistance forms. Fill these out. Swallow your pride. It's for the kids. Ms. Miller, the twins' teacher, quietly arranged for them to join the after-school program on a scholarship. It's no trouble. Claire, they're wonderful kids. But at the grocery store, I saw the looks, the whispers. I ran into a mom from the old school's PTA. Claire, we heard. What a mess. I always thought Richard was so devoted. Her smile was all pity and prurient curiosity. The story had morphed in the retelling. She turned the kids against their father. Can you imagine? The job search was a soul-crushing parade of rejection. My resume, Stanford. MA Sociology, that was a relic. The 10-year gap under experience yawned like a chasm. Your background is impressive, but we're really looking for someone with recent, hands-on experience in the field. A decade out of the workforce, that's a significant gap. We've decided to go with a candidate whose profile is a closer match. I'd come home, paste on a smile for the kids, help with homework in our tiny kitchen nook, and then retreat to the bathroom, stifling sobs with the shower running. One afternoon, I found Ben at the small desk in our shared living area, my old laptop open. He was on a job search site. Ben, honey, what are you doing? He didn't look up. Looking for jobs for you. This one says entry-level data entry. It doesn't need experience. Just typing. My heart shattered. Oh, baby, that's my job. You just focus on being a kid. But we need money, he said, his small voice so terribly practical. Liam needs new sneakers. The tread is gone. That night, after the kids were asleep, I broke. The dam of composure I'd held for weeks burst. I sank to the floor of my barren bedroom, silent, heaving sobs shaking my body. I was failing. I had fought a dragon in court and won, only to be slowly suffocated by the mundane, expensive reality of life. The knock on my apartment door was soft. I scrambled up, wiping my face. It was Sarah. She took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. Okay, cry it out. Then we make a plan. Over terrible. Gas station coffee at my kitchen table. She laid it out. The PDA network. The mom mafia. You've spent a decade doing invisible labor for this community. Time to cash in the chips. What does that mean? It means you coordinated the school auction that raised 50 grand. You ran the community garden that fed half the soccer team. You organized the carpool that saved a dozen working parents their sanity. That's not nothing. That's project management, logistics, budgeting, and diplomacy on a PhD level. She pulled out her phone. You're not applying for jobs. You're freelancing. Starting now. She made calls to the mom who ran a local bakery and needed someone to organize her catering orders, to the dad who started a tech newsletter and needed a virtual assistant to manage his chaos, to the woman who owned 3 vacation rentals and was drowning in scheduling and communications. The work was piecemeal. Data entry for the bakery, scheduling for the rentals. It paid in $25 and $50 increments, but it was money I'd earned. My name was on the checks. A week later, a formal envelope arrived. Thick, cream-colored paper. An invitation to a charity gala at the Winchester estate. The hostess, Grace Winters. I knew the name. Everyone did. Old Silicon Valley money. Philanthropy. Notoriously private. I'd never met her. The note inside was handwritten. Ms. Mitchell, I followed your case with great interest. My daughter, Chloe, was in Lily's ballet class 2 years ago. You helped her when she had a meltdown backstage. And you never made me feel like a failure of a mother for it. I've also seen what you built at the school. I'm hosting a small event and would value your perspective on community engagement. Please come as my guest. Sincerely, Grace Winters. I almost threw it away. A charity gala? In this apartment? With my Target dress? It was a cruel joke. Ben found the invitation. You have to go. He said, Honey, that's not for people like us right now. Yes, it is, he said, with a quiet certainty that brooked no argument. You helped her kid. Now she wants to help you. That's how it works. He paused. Also, I looked her up. Her husband is Robert Winters. He went to Stanford. Like you. The night of the gala, Sarah did my hair. I wore the only decent thing I owned. A simple black dress from another life. I felt like an imposter walking into the glittering mansion in Hillsborough. Grace Winters found me within minutes. She was in her 50s, impeccably dressed in a way that whispered money rather than shouted it. Claire, thank you for coming. She took my hand, her grip firm. I've been wanting to talk to you. Let's ditch the champagne. She led me to a quiet alcove. No small talk. I run my family's foundation. We fund community resilience projects. I need a director for a new initiative. Someone who understands real communities, not just spreadsheets. My husband, Robert, remembers you from Stanford. He says you were the sharpest sociological mind in your cohort before you. As he put it, opted for the harder PhD. A faint smile touched her lips. The job is yours if you want it. The pay is competitive. The hours are flexible. We have an excellent on-site daycare. I stared at her, my mind blank. I have no formal experience. I'm a mom who just lost everything. You're a community architect who just survived a hostile takeover. She corrected gently. I'm not offering you charity. I'm making a strategic investment. I need your skills. And I think you need a purpose that doesn't involve just surviving. She handed me a card. My office. 9 a.m. Monday. We'll talk details. I floated home in a daze. A job. A real job. With benefits. With daycare. I tiptoed into the apartment. A night light glowed in the kids' room. I peeked in. The twins were asleep. Limbs askew. Ben was awake, reading under the covers with a flashlight. Well, he whispered. I sat on the edge of his bed, the damask invitation still in my hand. I think we're going to be okay. Ben. He nodded, a small, tired smile on his face. I know. He reached under his pillow and pulled out the old smartphone. He handed it to me. I'm done with this now. I took it, the plastic case, cool in my hand. It felt like the weight of the world. Ben, what you did. I never wanted you to have to. I know. He said simply, but you always tell us to do the right thing. Even when it's hard. He was doing a wrong thing. So I did a right thing. He snuggled down. Can you turn out the light? I'm really tired. I kissed his forehead. My heart, so full it hurt. Good night, my brave boy. I walked back to the tiny living room, the invitation and the phone on the coffee table. 2 objects. One, a promise of a future. The other, a testament to a battle I never wanted my children to fight. The freeway noise was a constant hum outside. It wasn't the quiet of Wisteria Lane. It was louder, Messier, full of the sound of people moving, surviving, going somewhere. For the first time since the papers arrived, I felt like I might be going somewhere. 2, not back, forward. The Winchester Foundation offices were nothing like I expected. No cold glass and steel, but a converted Victorian house in Menlo Park, filled with light and the quiet hum of purpose. My new desk was in a sunlit nook, not a cubicle. A small, framed photo of the kids was the only personal item I'd brought. It felt like a declaration. Grace Winters got straight to the point that first Monday. The Community Anchors Initiative. We fund hyperlocal projects, urban gardens, after-school tech labs, literacy programs. But the application process is Byzantine. The reporting is a nightmare. Good people with great ideas give up. Your job is to fix that, be the bridge, understand their needs, translate it into grant speak, and hold their hands through the process. You did it for free for years at the school. Now you'll do it with a budget. She slid a folder across the polished wood. First test, the Sunnydale Community Hub proposal. It's a mess. Passionate, but a mess. Tell me how to fix it by Friday. I spent the first 2 days in a panic, drowning in terms like logic models and impact metrics. My colleagues were polite but distant. A young guy named Derek, an MBA from Harvard, eyed me over his monitor. So, Grace says you're a community whisperer. No prior nonprofit experience? My community was my home. I said, keeping my voice even. The budget was a household allowance. The stakeholders were 3 children under 10. The challenges were similar. Limited resources, high emotions, and the constant need for negotiation. He blinked, then gave a short laugh. Okay, fair enough. The breakthrough came on Wednesday. I stopped trying to force the Sunnydale proposal into the foundation's rigid boxes. Instead, I called Maria, the grandmother running the project, from her garage. The form asks for your sustainability model. I said, my what? Maria's voice was tired. We feed kids. We give them a place to do homework. Mr. Jenkins at the bodega gives us day-old bread. My nephew fixes the computers. What more do they want? I looked at the confusing budget, then at her simple list of needs. They want to know it won't fall apart. What if we called it a community partnership plan? We list Mr. Jenkins, your nephew. We show it's not just about money. It's about people. That's sustainable. There was a long pause. You can write it like that? That's what it is. I said, a spark of my old confidence flickering. We're just telling the truth. I rewrote the entire proposal, not in foundation jargon, but in Maria's words, framed with just enough structure to make the accountants happy. On Friday, I placed it on Grace's desk. She read it in silence, then looked up. You got the Jenkins bodega to agree to a formal in-kind donation letter? I asked. He was happy to help. He just didn't know it counted. A slow smile spread across Grace's face. This is exactly what I was talking about. You see the assets, not just the deficits. She approved the grant on the spot. Word got around the office. The community whisper had delivered. A week later, Grace's husband, Robert, stopped by my nook. He was taller than I remembered from Stanford, with a kind, craggy face. Claire Mitchell. I wondered if it was you, the one who eviscerated Professor Claiborne's neoliberal family model thesis in third-year seminar. I flushed. I just asked a few questions. You torpedoed his core argument with 2 sentences. It was beautiful. He leaned against the doorframe. Grace says you're a natural. I'm not surprised. I was sorry to hear about your situation. Richard Mitchell. I met him once at a networking event. He spent 20 minutes name-dropping and then asked me for a job. I stiffened. He's good at that. He's good at the performance of competence. Robert corrected gently. There's a difference. I did some digging after Grace mentioned hiring you. Not on you. On him. His resignation wasn't clean. There are whispers of misappropriated funds. Fudged reports. His sudden poverty is a performance. 2. Be careful. Wounded animals are dangerous. The warning sat heavily with me, but the work was a lifeline. I was good at it. The moms in my apartment complex, hearing where I worked, started shyly asking for advice about daycare vouchers, ESL classes. I helped where I could. Sarah called it my kitchen table nonprofit. My first big test was the foundation's annual fundraising gala. Grace put me in charge of the community partners showcased, highlighting the people we funded. Not the sad stories, she instructed, the triumph stories, but make it real. I brought in Maria from Sunnydale, and a teen from a coding lab we funded, and a former gardener from a job training program who now ran his own landscaping business. I helped them tell their own stories, simply and without pity. The night of the gala, I wore a rented navy dress. The venue was a stunning museum, all light and art. For an hour, I was someone else. Claire Mitchell, foundation director, confidently guiding donors from one showcase to the next. The teen, Javier, made a venture capitalist laugh with a story about debugging a program while babysitting his niece. It was working. Then I saw him. Richard stood near the bar, wearing a suit that was just a little too shiny, talking too loudly to a man who looked like he wanted to escape. He was thinner, with a hard, desperate edge to his smile. Our eyes met across the crowded room. His faltered, then hardened into pure venom. He excused himself and cut through the crowd toward me. Well, Claire Mitchell, or should I say, Claire Winters, found a new rich husband to fund your little charity project? I kept my voice low. This is a work event. Richard, don't work. He snorted, his breath smelling of cheap scotch. Playing foundation lady with someone else's money? This is a costume. You're a secretary with a fancy title. You'll get bored, or you'll fail, and then you'll come crawling back with the kids, looking for me to clean up the mess. The old fear tried to rise. I swallowed it. There is no mess, and there is no back. The only one crawling seems to be you. The bar is over there. His face flushed. You think you've won? You live in a slum. My children ride a bus. You're a glorified social worker. I built something real. You built a house of cards. A calm voice said beside me. Robert Winters had materialized, a glass of sparkling water in his hand. He looked at Richard with polite disinterest. Mitchell, wasn't it? We met briefly. You were trying to sell me on a data security concept that, as I recall, was largely plagiarized from an open source project. How's that going? Richard went bone white. That's a lie. My IP was likely owned by your former employer, who, I hear, is still looking to have a word with you about some irregular expenses. Robert's smile didn't reach his eyes. This is a private function. I suggest you leave before I have to make that suggestion more formal. For a second, Richard looked like he might combust. He glared at me, then at Robert. This isn't over. He turned and shoved his way out. My hands were trembling. Robert placed a steadying hand on my arm for just a moment. I'm sorry that happened here, but watch him. Claire, that kind of humiliation doesn't fade. It festers. The incident cast a shadow, but the night was a professional triumph. The showcase was a hit. Donors wrote checks. Grace beamed. You have a real talent for this, she said, squeezing my shoulder. The high lasted until the next afternoon, when I got a call from Ben's school counselor, Ms. Albright. Mrs. Mitchell, we've had an incident. Ben was involved in a physical altercation. My heart dropped. Ben, my peacemaker, in the counselor's office. Ben, Saturday, a red mark blooming on his cheek. His expression closed off. Another boy, Tyler, sat sniffling with his mother, a perfectly coiffed woman I recognized from the old neighborhood. Tyler called Ben's dad a lying criminal and said his mom was a gold digger who stole from a nice old lady. The counselor explained. Looking pained, Ben told him to take it back. Tyler pushed him. Ben retaliated. He punched my son in the stomach. Tyler's mother, Annalise, hissed. He pushed Lily first, Ben said, his voice flat. She was just standing there. He called you a thief, Mom. And he said Dad was right about you. I knelt in front of my son. Ben, look at me. We do not use our fists. Ever. Do you understand? His eyes, full of a stormy confusion, met mine. Then how do we make them stop? He whispered, the pain in his voice worse than any punch. Talking didn't work. Ignoring him didn't work. He just says it louder. I had no good answer. I made Ben apologize for hitting. Annalise made Tyler mutter an apology for name-calling. It solved nothing. That night, as I tucked a subdued Lily into bed, she asked, Mommy, are we gold? What, sweetie? Tyler said we're gold diggers. Are we digging for gold? I hugged her tight. No, baby. We're not digging for anything. We're building. And sometimes, building is harder, but it's better. The words felt true, even if I wasn't sure she understood. Later, I sat with Ben on the edge of his bed. I'm not mad at you for defending Lily. I said, I'm mad that you have to. I'm so sorry. Ben, it's okay, he said, but his voice was thick. Robert stood up for you. At the party, you told Sarah, that's how it's supposed to be, right? Grown-ups standing up for people? The realization hit me like a physical blow. He wasn't just reacting to a bully. He was modeling behavior. My brave, burdened boy was looking for a rule book on how to be a man in this broken new world. And all he had were contradictory examples. A father who used words as weapons, and a family friend who used quiet authority as a shield. Yes, I said, my throat tight. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. And I'm going to do a better job of standing up for us. Too, not with fists, but by building a life so good, the words just stopped mattering. It was a big promise, maybe an impossible one, but as I left his room, I knew Robert was right. Richard's humiliation was festering, and now it was infecting my children. The battle wasn't in the courtroom anymore. It was in the school hallway, in the whispers, in the heart of my gentle son who was learning to fight. The foundation job, the apartment, the careful budget, IT was all the forward momentum I could muster. But the past, in the form of a desperate, spiteful man, was gaining fast, and it was aiming for the parts of my life I couldn't afford to lose. The voicemail was waiting for me at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, left at 1:17 a.m. Richard's voice, slurred and thick with a self-pitying rage I knew all too well. You think you're so smart, strutting around with your new friends, my kids in some tenement. You're neglecting them. Claire, I know it. Everyone will see it. I'm taking them back. A real parent doesn't pawn their kids off to work some charity desk job. You hear me? I'm coming for them. I deleted it. My hand steady. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, clear anger. Robert's warning echoed. Wounded animals are dangerous. This was the wounded animal, baring its teeth. Maya confirmed it 2 days later. He's filed a motion to modify custody. New attorney, some ambulance chaser from Sunnyvale. The argument, material change in circumstances. You're now employed full-time. Your hours are excessive and inflexible, leaving the children in inadequate, patchwork aftercare situations. He claims he's stabilized. He's showing a freelance consulting contract, and can provide a proper stay-at-home parent environment. He wants to be a stay-at-home parent now. The irony was bitter. He wants to not pay support, and he wants to hurt you. The request is for primary physical custody, with you getting every other weekend. It's the same playbook. Paint you as the unavailable, distracted careerist, and himself as the repentant, ready father. The old panic tried to claw its way up my throat. I looked at my calendar, packed with foundation meetings, site visits, grant deadlines. I thought of the kids, Ben's quiet anger, the twins' confusion, the complex ballet of school bus schedules, aftercare pickups, and invaluable, irreplaceable help from Sarah and the rotating cast of community moms. He's not wrong about the patchwork. I said, the admission painful. I'm not there when the bus drops them off at Sarah's. I'm scrambling. If he can prove that's harming them, then we prove the patchwork is a quilt. Maya said firmly, a community. And we prove his stability is a fantasy. But Claire, you need to be ready. This will get ugly. He's going to go after your job, your character, your new life. The attack came from all sides. A parental concern letter arrived at the foundation, anonymously, suggesting my personal familial instability made me unfit to manage community funds. Grace dropped it on my desk with a snort. I've had death threats from oil executives. This is amateur hour. But the stain was there. Then, the school calls. Not just Ben this time. Liam was in a shoving match defending Ben. Lily came home crying because a girl said her mom bought a fancy job with a rich man. Richard's poison was seeping into the groundwater of our new life. I sat the kids down at our rickety kitchen table. Your dad is upset. He's saying things that aren't true, and it might mean we have to go back to court. Ben's face shut down. I'm not talking to any more judges. I'm not saying anything. You might have to, buddy, to tell the truth. The truth didn't work before. He burst out, his composure cracking. I showed them everything. And he's still doing it. He's still lying. What's the point? He shoved his chair back and ran to his room. That was the breaking point. Not the legal motion, but the look of shattered futility in my son's eyes. I called Sarah. We need a system. I said, my voice raw, not just you saving me. A real system. Sarah arrived an hour later with a laptop and a bottle of cheap wine. Okay, Operation Quilt. She created a shared calendar. She reached out to 4 other moms in our complex, Nina, whose mom watched her toddler, Chloe, who worked nights as a nurse, Imani, a grad student with a flexible schedule. We mapped our collective shifts, appointments, and kid-free windows. I have Tuesday/Thursday classes until 3. Imani said, I can do school pickups those days. If someone can watch my Aiden for 2 hours on Wednesdays when I have lab, I get off my night shift at 7 a.m. Chloe said, I'm dead until noon, but I can be the after-school house from 3 to 6. No problem. My boys are older. They'll help. It was barter. It was chaos theory, but it was a plan, a community plan. We called it the After-School Collective. It wasn't a nanny service. It was a mutual aid society. Meanwhile, Maya was digging. Richard's freelance consulting contract was with a shell company that traced back to an old college friend. The work was nebulous. He's moving money in a circle to show income. Maya said, it won't hold up, but we need to show your village isn't just holding the line. It's better for them. The hearing was in a different courthouse, smaller, more procedural. Richard's new lawyer, a man named Cooper with a 2-tan complexion, made the arguments. Claire was absent, career-obsessed. The children shuttled between strangers. Richard was ready, humbled, a father who just wanted to make pancakes for his kids on a Tuesday morning. Judge Norris, a weary-looking man with a mustache, listened. Ms. Mitchell, you work at the Winchester Foundation. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, as the Community Initiatives Director. And the hours? Officially, 9 to 5, but it's a salaried, flexible position. I often work from home after the children are in bed. My employer is supportive of family needs. Grace had provided a glowing, detailed affidavit. And the children's care between schools and your return? They are part of an after-school collective with other families in our apartment complex. It's a structured, cooperative arrangement. They are with people they know and trust, in a home environment. Cooper pounced. A collective. So, not a licensed daycare, not a professional, just other busy parents swapping time. Your Honor, this is the very definition of unstable. Patchwork care. My client is offering a full-time parental presence. Maya stood. Your Honor, if I may, We'd like to call a witness. Ms. Sarah Wilkins. Sarah, in her best court pantsuit, took the stand. Maya led her through the structure of the collective, the shared calendar, the first aid certifications, the planned activities, the healthy snacks. It's not a swap. Your Honor, Sarah said, her voice strong and clear. It's a community. My son has ADHD. Claire helped me navigate the IEP process last year when I was drowning. Now, I provide a safe house for her kids 2 afternoons a week. Imani's son gets playmates. Chloe's boys learn responsibility by helping the little ones. The kids are loved, supervised, and learning about interdependence. It's not a deficit. It's a different kind of wealth. Cooper's Cross was dismissive. So, it's an unlicensed, informal babysitting co-op. Sarah smiled. It's a network. The same kind of network that rich people pay concierges to build for them. We just do it for each other. For free. Next, Maya called Ben. My heart ached as he walked to the stand. So small, but he held his head high. Benjamin. Maya said gently, "Do you like the after-school collective?" "It's okay," he said, with a shrug. "I help Lily with her reading. Imani helps me with my math. It's better than before. Before, when we lived in the big house, Dad was never there. Mom was always there, but she was sad. Now she's busy, but she's not sad. And when she's home, she's really home." He looked directly at the judge. "My dad says he wants to make pancakes on Tuesday, but when he lived with us, he never even knew what day Pancake Day was at school. It's Thursday." A small smile touched the judge's lips. "And if you had a choice, Benjamin, where would you want to live?" Ben didn't hesitate. He looked at me, then at Richard, who was glaring at him. "With my mom, in the apartment, even if it's small, because it's our home." He had his turn. He made it a factory for lies. He used the phrase carefully, like he'd rehearsed it. "We don't want to live in a factory." Cooper tried to attack, to suggest I'd coached him. Ben just looked at him with those 2 old eyes. "No one tells me what to say anymore. I just say the truth. It's easier to remember." In the end, it wasn't even close. Judge Norris denied Richard's motion in its entirety. The court finds Mr. Mitchell's purported change in circumstances to be superficial and unconvincing. More importantly, the children are thriving in a stable, loving, and creatively supported environment with their mother. The so-called patchwork care appears to be a model of community resilience. Motion denied. Mr. Mitchell, I suggest you focus your energies on rebuilding a genuine relationship with your children, rather than litigating one. Richard lost it. As we walked out, he grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. "You turn them into little socialists. A collective? This is pathetic. Claire, you're raising them to be moochers." I pulled my arm free. "They're learning to rely on people who show up. Richard, something you'd know nothing about." I walked away, Ben's hand firmly in mine. The final call came a month later. On a rainy Sunday, the number was blocked. "They're letting me go." Richard's voice was a hollow monotone. "The consulting. The friend, he said the shell company was too risky." "I have nothing. Claire, nothing. This is your fault. All of it." I said nothing. "You need to call off the forensic accountant. You need to drop the back support." I can't breathe." A wet, ragged sound. Was he crying? "Just tell the court you made a mistake. That we can work it out. For the kids. We'll be a family again. I'll try." There it was. Not an apology. A surrender. A desperate, manipulative plea to return to the kingdom he'd burned down, expecting me to rebuild it for him. I looked out the window of my apartment. The rain streaked the glass. Inside, it was warm. The smell of Liam's slightly burnt cookies filled the air. Lily's laughter echoed from her room. Ben was at the table, showing Sarah's son a coding project on his laptop. The quilt was holding. "No, Richard," I said, my voice calm, final. "I won't. The only mistake I made was ever believing you. The children and I are a family. You are a creditor and a stranger. Don't call this number again. I hung up. I blocked the number. I walked to the table, put my hands on Ben's shoulders, and watched the lines of code scroll down his screen. A new language being built from the ground up. Outside, the rain fell, washing everything clean. 3 years. The phrase landed in my mind as I scrolled through the project dashboard. The Nexus project had been live for 3 years. What started as Grace's Community Anchors initiative had morphed, under my direction, into a fully fledged social enterprise. We didn't just give grants, we trained. We took the patchwork quilt of the after-school collective and turned it into a replicable model, offering certification and microgrants to other parent cooperatives. I'd hired Sarah as our first community liaison. Imani ran our digital outreach. The invisible skills of a decade of domestic management had a curriculum, a value, a market. My phone buzzed on the stand-up desk in my home office, at a real room with a door that closed. In the 3-bedroom townhouse we'd moved into a year ago. It was a text from Ben, now a lanky 12-year-old with a voice that kept cracking at inopportune moments. Mom, Stanford pre-college program acceptance came. It's a yes. Full ride. Told you I'd get in. Attached was a screenshot. Benjamin Mitchell, admission confirmed. Stanford University High School Summer College. Computer science, social impact. Prize swelled. Sharp and sweet. I typed back. I never doubted it for a second. So proud. We're celebrating tonight. Your pick. Burritos. And can Javier come? He helped with the app design. Javier was the teen from the Foundation Gala years ago, now a computer engineering undergrad at San Jose State and Ben's unofficial mentor. Of course, I replied. The door to my office creaked open. Liam, now 10, stood there, covered in fine sawdust. Mom, I need, like, $40 for wood and hinges. $40 for what? Exactly? Mrs. Garcia's fence gate is broken, the one by her garden. The rabbits are getting in and eating everything. I told her I could fix it. I have a design. He said it with the calm certainty of a master craftsman, which, for a 10-year-old with a burgeoning talent for woodworking, he practically was. Is this a for-profit venture or a community service project? I asked, trying to sound businesslike. He considered it. It's a pro bono possibly for cookies situation. She said she'd bake churros. I laughed. Deal. Take 50 from the household cash box. Draw up a receipt for her homeowner's insurance. Professionalism. Liam. Yes. Boss. He gave a mock salute and vanished. From the living room, I heard Lily's voice, loud and clear. No, that's not how it works. You don't get to call her that just because you're mad. It's a slur. Say you're sorry, or you're out of the club. I peered out. Lily was on a video call, her tablet propped up, hands on her hips. Her Girls Code Conquer Club, a STEM group she'd started for girls in their complex, that was in session. A pixelated face on the screen looked sullen. Fine. Sorry. Maya. It's just her brother is so annoying. Then say that, Lily instructed, with the wisdom of a 10-year-old CEO. Now, back to the debugger. The problem is in line 47. This was our new normal. Not a desperate scramble, but a vibrant, noisy, purposeful chaos. The wounds were still there, but they'd scarred over, strong in the broken places. The call from Maya came an hour later. Forensic accountant finally pinned him down. Richard pleaded guilty to misdemeanor fraud related to those expense reports. 6 months. County jail, with time served awaiting trial. He's being sentenced next week. A long silence stretched on the line. I felt nothing. No triumph. No sorrow. Just a distant, clinical acknowledgement. Okay, there's more. The court has approved a final settlement. A lump sum from what assets we could recover. which isn't much, and the termination of future spousal support. He's waived all parental rights. Claire, in perpetuity. He never wants to be contacted for consent for anything ever again. It's a clean, legal severance. My breath hitched. Parental rights. The final chord. Cut not by a judge, but by his own surrender. Do the children need to be told? Legally? No. Ethically? You're their mom. You'll know. I gathered them that night. Over the promised burritos with Javier. Ben knew something was up immediately. It's Dad, isn't it? I nodded, choosing my words carefully. The legal stuff is finally over. He made some bad choices with money at his old job. He's going to be in a kind of secured facility for a while, and he's decided that he doesn't want to be contacted about anything moving forward. It means you won't be getting letters or calls. It also means you don't ever have to see him or talk to him again if you don't want to. Lily put her burrito down. Is he in jail? Yes. Honey, for a few months. She processed this. Good, she said, with a simple, devastating finality, and picked up her food. Liam looked at Ben. Does this mean we can change our last name? The question startled a laugh out of me. We can talk about that. It's a big decision. Ben had been quiet. He quit, he said finally. He quit on us. Officially. He didn't look sad. He looked relieved. The burden of being the secret keeper, the truth teller, the little man of the house, it lifted from his shoulders, visible in the slight slump of his posture. Okay, after dinner, I logged into the anonymous email account I'd created months before. I found the website for the county's inmate services and navigated to the commissary fund page. I typed in Richard's inmate number. I added $500 to his account, earmarked for the Inmate Wellness Counseling Services Fund. The note field allowed 25 characters. I typed, for the children's sake, get help. Then I deleted the account. A few Saturdays later, I was at the local hardware store, helping Liam pick out the right hinge for Mrs. Garcia's gate, when a voice said, "That's the brass ball bearing. It'll last longer than the cheap nickel ones." I turned. It was Mark, Liam's woodworking teacher from the community center. Mid-40s, kind eyes, calloused hands, and a calm, steady presence. His daughter, Sophie, was in Lily's club. Mark. Hi, Claire. Gate repair? He smiled, nodding at the hinge in my hand. Liam's project. He's taken on a client. He's got a real feel for it. Mark said, patient, sees the whole structure, not just the broken piece. He paused. I was about to grab a truly terrible cup of coffee from the vending machine. Would you and Liam like to join me? Sophie's with her mom this weekend. I'm at loose ends. Liam looked at me, eyes wide. Can we? I have questions about dado joints. That was the first coffee. It led to a walk. Then, a few weeks later, a movie with all the kids did a chaotic, popcorn-filled affair that was less a date and more a field test of merged family dynamics. Ben was cautiously polite. Lily immediately began planning joint coding projects with Sophie. Liam just talked about wood grain with Mark. One evening, after he'd helped me assemble a stubborn IKEA bookshelf, a test no man should have to endure, we sat on the floor of the living room, surrounded by cardboard and screwdrivers. It's a lot, I said, gesturing vaguely at the house. The evidence of children everywhere. I come with baggage, a whole storage unit of it. Mark leaned back against the couch. My ex-wife and I co-parent pretty well, but Sophie still has nightmares about the shouting. Before we figured it out, I come with a toolbox, a decent custody schedule, and my own set of dents. He looked at me. I'm not looking for a princess to rescue, Claire. I'm looking for a partner to build something with. Something that doesn't have to be perfect, just sturdy and real. It wasn't a whirlwind. It was a slow, careful construction. We didn't date so much as integrate our lives. He taught Liam how to use a lathe. I helped Sophie with a history project. Ben showed Mark the beta version of his app, NeighborLink, which connected volunteers with isolated seniors for tech, help, and companionship. Mark asked thoughtful questions about the UI. One night, months in, Ben said to me, "Mark's okay. He listens. He doesn't try to be dad." It was the highest praise. The call from the Palo Alto Community Foundation came in the spring. I'd been nominated for, and won, their annual Citizen Builder Award. The ceremony was at a hotel ballroom. I bought a new dress, not rented. Ben wore a suit, complaining about the collar. Liam beamed, showing anyone who would look the calluses on his hands from real work. Lily wore a dress covered in tiny printed circuit boards. When they called my name, I walked to the podium, my heart pounding. I looked out and saw my quilt, Grace and Robert, smiling, Sarah, Imani, Chloe, the collective, Maria from Sunnydale, now running a thriving community kitchen, Javier, Ms. Miller, retired but still cheering, and Mark, with Sophie, giving me a thumbs up. 3 years ago, I began, my voice clear in the microphone. I was told my life's work had no value, that the network I'd built, the skills I'd honed, were a hobby, a cost center. I paused, looking at Ben. I learned that the most powerful testaments aren't on resumes. They're in the quiet loyalty of friends who show up with lasagna, in the fierce logic of a child who knows truth from lies, in the collective power of parents swapping time and trust. I held up the award, a simple piece of glass. This isn't for me. It's for the network, for every person who chooses to be a knot in the safety net, who sees a community not as a list of needs, but as a web of assets. We don't build alone. We build with. Thank you for building with me. Afterwards, as we spilled out into the cool night air, buzzing with happiness, an older black sedan slowed as it passed the hotel entrance. The window was down. I caught a glimpse of a gaunt, familiar profile. Richard. He must have been out. He stared straight ahead, his face a blank mask, before the car accelerated and merged into the traffic, swallowed by the river of red taillights. I felt a hand slip into mine. It was Ben. He'd seen it too. He didn't say anything. He just squeezed my hand, then let go to join Liam and Lily, who were debating the merits of the dessert table. I stood there for a moment, watching my children, surrounded by our village, lit by the golden light from the hotel doors. The ghost had passed by, silent and powerless. He was part of the traffic now, moving in a different direction. We were standing still, right where we belonged, on solid ground we had built together. The new normal wasn't just stable. It was joyful, and it was ours. 5 years later, the backyard of the townhouse was a symphony of controlled chaos. Smoke curled from Mark's ancient Weber grill. The tang of barbecue sauce mixed with the scent of blooming jasmine from the fence Liam had rebuilt last summer. The space was strung with fairy lights, casting a warm glow over the laughing, talking, eating crowd. I stood at the sliding glass door, a tray of lemonade in my hands, and just watched. My people. Sarah was by the grill, arguing with Mark about the proper char level for a burger. Her own toddler, Mia, balanced on her hip. Grace Winters, looking effortlessly elegant in linen trousers, was sitting in a lawn chair, listening intently as Imani explained the data models for her doctoral thesis. Robert was in a deep discussion with Liam, now a solid 15-year-old, about the structural integrity of a treehouse designed for the community garden. And the kids, my kids, Lily, 13 and all fierce elbows and big ideas, was holding court with a group of girls from her now countywide Code Conquer chapters. Their conversation a rapid-fire mix of Python and pop culture. Liam was showing Chloe's youngest how to sand a piece of scrap wood, his movements patient and sure. And Ben, my Ben, 18 years old, leaving for Stanford in a month. Not for a summer program, but for real. He was talking to Javier, who is now a software engineer at a promising startup. They were looking at something on Ben's laptop, probably the latest iteration of NeighborLink, which had evolved from a high school project into a legit nonprofit with 2 part-time employees. "You're doing it again," Mark said softly, coming up behind me, wiping his hands on a towel that said, "Kiss the cook." "Or don't. I'm not the boss of you." "Doing what?" "The inventory. The quiet tally." He smiled, his eyes crinkling. "It's a good list. The best list," I said, leaning into him for a moment. We weren't married. We'd talked about it. In the practical way, we discussed everything. The consensus, reached over pizza with all 5 kids, was that we already were a family. The paperwork and the party felt redundant. We had a shared calendar, a joint emergency fund, and a commitment to show up. That was the contract that mattered. The party was in full swing when Grace tapped her knife against her lemonade glass. The chatter died down. "I won't make a speech," she began, to a chorus of good-natured groans. "I'll be brief. 5 years ago, I hired a woman because she helped my daughter with a ballet shoe and had the strategic mind of a general. Today, that woman's Community Anchors initiative has funded over 200 local projects, trained over 1,000 parents in tangible skills, and proven that social capital isn't a soft concept. It's the hardest infrastructure we have." She raised her glass to me, to Claire, who taught us that the most powerful network isn't on a server. "It's right here." I felt my cheeks flush. I just connected the dots. I called out, "You all were the bright spots." Later, as twilight deepened, I found Ben sitting on the back steps, away from the crowd. He was looking at his phone, a small frown on his face. "Everything okay?" I sat beside him. He showed me the screen. It was an email. The subject line, "Inmate correspondence request. Richard Mitchell." I went very still. "Ben, he wants to write to me. He has to get my permission through the system first." He scrolled. It says, "I have done a lot of work on myself. I understand the pain I caused. I would like the opportunity, if you are willing, to offer an apology in your own time. No expectations." Ben's voice was flat, reciting. He looked at me. "What do I do?" The old protective fury rose, but I quashed it. This wasn't my decision. "What do you want to do?" He was silent for a long time, watching fireflies spark in the deepening blue. "I don't want a relationship. I don't need an apology. But I think I want to know that he knows, that he really sees it, what he lost. Not just us, but all of this." He gestured to the yard, the noise, the life. "I want to send him a picture of tonight, of all of us. And I want to say, this is my family. You're not in it. Do not contact me again." He took a shaky breath. "Is that cruel?" I put my arm around his shoulders. This man-child who had been forced to grow a warrior's heart too young. "No, honey. It's a boundary. It's the healthiest thing you can do. It's not for him. It's for you. To close the book your way." He nodded, his jaw set. "Okay." He typed a quick response, attached a photo Sarah had taken earlier of us all laughing around the grill, and hit send. Then he blocked the inmate email address. He let out a long, slow breath, as if exhaling the last ghost of that old fear. "Done." He stood up, brushed off his jeans, and offered me a hand. "Come on. I think Lily's trying to convince Robert to fund a robotics league. He's going to need backup." The party wound down. Hugs were exchanged. Tupperware containers of leftovers pressed into hands. Promises to see each other soon. At the community center. At the next collective potluck. At Ben's dorm move-in day. Finally, it was just us. Mark and I stood side by side at the sink, washing the last of the plates. The kids were scattered, sleepy and content. "He's ready. You know," Mark said, handing me a wet platter. "Ben, he's more than ready." "I know," I said, the familiar ache of impending absence already there, but soft, sweet. He built himself a pretty solid foundation. Mark dried his hands and turned to face me. We all did. He looked around the kitchen. the home we'd made. It's a good life. Claire Mitchell. I took his hand. It's a built life. Mark Dawson. And we're not done building. Later, I checked on the kids. Lily was asleep. A biography of Grace Hopper splayed open on her chest. Liam was out cold, a faint smell of sawdust still clinging to him. And Ben, in the room that would soon be a visitor's room, was packing a box of books. He saw me in the doorway. Last box for tonight, he whispered. I stepped in, sitting on the edge of his bed. The room was in transition, half teenager, half future memory. I'm so proud of the man you are. Ben, you know that, right? He sat next to me. I learned from the best. He paused. You're going to be okay. You know, when I'm gone, you've got Mark, the twins, the whole circus. I know, I said, my voice thick, but I'll miss my co-conspirator. He smiled. That old, wise smile. You've got a whole army of conspirators now. Mom, you built an army. He hugged me. Tight. Thanks. He mumbled into my shoulder. For everything. For fighting. For building this. I held him. My brave boy. My first witness. Thank you, Ben, for showing me how. The next morning was bright and clear. I sat at the sun-drenched kitchen table with my laptop and a fresh cup of coffee. An email notification popped up. It was from a publisher. The subject, contract for the invisible resume, recognizing the value of life work. I opened it, scanned the terms. My book, the book I'd started writing 2 years ago, weaving sociology with the raw, practical lessons from the collective, the foundation, my own life. It was real. From the living room, I could hear the comfortable sounds of my world. Lily explaining a bug in her code to Mark. Liam clattering around in the garage, starting a new project. The distant chime of a text on Ben's phone, probably from a friend. I looked out the window at our backyard, still littered with the confetti of last night's joy. The grill, the string lights, the sturdy fence. I hit reply on the email. Dear Ms. Lauron, thank you. I accept. Sincerely, Claire Mitchell. I signed it and hit send. Then I closed the laptop, picked up my coffee, and went to join my family in the messy, beautiful, brilliantly ordinary morning. The circle wasn't closed, it was a spiral, widening, including more light, more laughter, more life with every turn. We had been broken, and we had remade ourselves, not into what we were, but into something stronger, something shared. The story wasn't about survival anymore. It was simply about living. And we were, at last, so very good at it.